Now, the thing that happens when you let the external world completely define how you feel on the internal is that you're dictated by everything in the external world. You have no control over how you feel. You are not making any conscious choices. You are letting yourself just be it's almost like just a roll of the dice. And whatever happens is going to dictate how you feel. And that, from personal experience, is a horrible way to live. Because when you let the external world dictate how you feel on the internal, you've got no, all you can do is just go with, I don't know how to put it. It's almost like you're juggling. You're just constantly juggling. And depending on which ball you get, it's like, oh, that's a good ball. I'm going to feel good. Then you throw a ball up in the air. Oh, no, that's a bad ball. I'm going to feel bad. Throw it up in the air. Oh, that's a good ball. I'm going to feel good. Throw it up in the air. And it is such a nasty way to live. It means that you never really sustain any kind of feeling. You are not actually making choices for how you feel. You're letting everything in your external world dictate how you feel, and it is exhausting, and it usually is a lie. And this is the thing that I love about, I guess, the conscious creation, the conscious choice, the conscious mindset is that it's not that you get to choose how you feel. It's that you get to be aware that 99% of what you are feeling is based on a lie from your past. Look at the elections, right? You have Trump on one side, you have Kamala on the other side. And then depending on what you believe, depending on how you were raised, or depending on what your life experience are, that will dictate whether you're happy or whether you're sad. But it's based on a lie, because you've got people on one side who voted for Trump who are over the moon. They think this is amazing and wonderful and fabulous. And you've got people who voted for Kamala who think this is the end of the world. This is the end of time and life is over for all of us. But it's not true. If it were a truth, then everybody would believe the same thing. But not everybody believes the same thing. But what you're doing is the lie comes because not everybody believes it. If everybody believed 100%, then it would be a truth. But it's not. Not everybody believes it. I mean, this is a fascinating thing, right? The sky being blue. The sky isn't always blue, and not everybody believes the sky is blue. Sometimes the sky is grey. If you go to England, the sky is grey more than it is blue. You come to Australia, the sky is blue more than it is grey. But is the sky blue? Or is it just called blue because someone someday at some point decided to go, that colour I'm going to call blue? And then we all defined our existence based on this one person who decided that the sky was going to be blue. But is it a truth? I don't know. Who's to say? I don't think it's a truth. I think it's a choice. I think it's a belief. So most of the things that we believe in this world are a lie. And how do you work out what is truth? Well, if you follow people like Eckhart Tolle, if you follow Abraham Hicks, if you follow Kyle Cease, if you follow some of the amazing, amazing, amazing conscious beings out in the world, it's all based on how you feel. You know whether something that is a truth for you because of how you feel. But here's the hardest part, and the part that I have battled with a lot, is that we're so addicted to fear. We're so addicted to that negative hit. We talk a lot about being drug addicts and alcoholics and smokers and the addictions to those, but we never talk about the addictions to ourselves, the addiction to that hit of the fear, the addiction to the hit of the anger, the addiction to the hit of the being broke and having no money. All of these things, they create hits, and we get addicted to that hit, the dopamine hit from social media. That's the latest one, right? That's the latest fad. And when you realize that it's the hit that you're addicted to, all of a sudden you can take a really big step back and go, okay, hang on a minute. If I'm living my life based on a lie, which is based on the past, it's not even the now. So every belief that you have is based on an experience or a story that you received from the past. So it's not even based on the now. And if the past is a lie and the beliefs are a lie, then what's the truth? Well, the only truth is the now moment. You may have had a fight with someone yesterday, and that fight came from a pattern. You felt like they didn't hear you, and so you lost your shit and you got annoyed at them because they didn't hear you. And then you're doing what you can. You are fighting for your right to be right, to get them to hear you. And because they're not hearing you, you fight harder, you fight more. But what you're fighting for is your limitation. You're fighting for your lack. You're fighting for the lie. You think you're fighting for your right to be right, or you think you're fighting for the thing that you want, but it's a lie. That other person is not there to feed how you feel. They're not there to behave in a particular way so you can feel a particular way. It's going all the way back to the start of this conversation, which was when you use the external world to dictate how you feel in the internal world, you've got no power. And you've got nothing. You've got no control. You cannot control the external world, although some of us have tried, me included. You cannot control the external world enough to make you feel good about yourself. It doesn't work. So what I am learning and what I have been working on and what I have been unraveling is, well, how about I view the external world as a lie? I view the external world as a pattern, really. It's a creation of all the patterns that I have inside myself. It's a creation of all the patterns that live inside of me, which are all created based on the past. They're all a lie. I know they're all a lie. They came from my mum, my dad, my grandma, my aunt, my cousin, my sister, my teachers. But who were they to tell me that this is the truth? They don't know what the truth is. They're not God. Let's use God as an example, or the universe, or source, or creator, or whatever word or term you like to use it. They are not that. They are them. They are here in their human form, living out their limitations based on their ego. I mean, there are so many things. My brain is exploding with things that I want to talk about. So I can hear it. I'm trying to rein in my brain to stay on one topic. But then there's this part of my brain that's going, oh, talk about this now and talk about this now and talk about this now. It's like, whoa, hang on a minute. Come back to the now moment. What are we talking about now? What are we covering right now? And it's really, since I started talking about the brain, it's really interesting because the brain, the mind, the ego, people call it the ego. It's most commonly called the ego now, is that it is here. I heard someone say that it is here to kill you. And it's like, it's not here to kill you. It's here to kill the connection that you have to oneness. It is here to kill that connection that you have to source. It's here to kill the connection you have to the universe or God or Mother Gaia or the angels, whatever you want to call it. It is here to kill your connection to oneness. It's not here to kill you. It's here to kill your connection to oneness. Because then if it destroys your connection to oneness, then all you have is your mind. And your mind does not want to give up. It will fight, and it will fight to the death, but it's not the death of you, can be, but generally speaking, it's not the death of you, it's the death of the connection to your self, to your highest self, to your highest intended self, to the highest power inside of you. That's what it's fighting. And it's interesting, I put up a video yesterday where my daughter shared what she believes, and one of the things she said is, when we keep fighting with our mind, it fights harder. And it does. You think about when you're in a fight with someone and you are fighting for your right to be right and they are fighting for their right to be right. What's going to happen is if you've got two energies that are fighting for the right to be right, and that's exactly what your ego does. It will fight for its right to be right. And if you participate in it, and if you actively argue back with it, it is going to fight harder, and you are going to have to fight harder. And then we end up with people with depression and people with bipolar and people with all sorts of different disorders and ADHD and all these other things. We end up with these people with all of these disorders because they're fighting so hard with their brain. They're fighting for their right to be right, and they're fighting against the external world. And when you're in this constant fight, you can't feel good. You cannot create a happy, well adjusted, abundant lifestyle when you're fighting for your right to be right. All you can create in your external world is a fight. So it's this massive quandary, right? You've got the ego, you've got yourself in oneness, you have your ego fighting to disconnect you from oneness. You then have you listening to your ego, believing that it's true, then having the external world manifest around you, fighting for your right to be right in the external world, fighting with your right to be right with your brain. Your brain's fighting with you for your right to be right. It's just, and then we wonder why we feel bad about ourselves. So when you accept that your ego is fighting for survival and you watch it fight, but you do not fight with it, you don't surrender to it either, because if you surrender to it, then you're giving it all the power. You're not surrendering to your ego, but you're also not fighting. But you are listening, you are hearing, you are acknowledging, you are loving it, you are holding a space for it. And eventually you get to a point where you can surrender it. You can surrender it to a higher power. You're not surrendering to your brain, you're surrendering your brain to a higher power. You're saying, I have no control over what my brain is thinking. It's my brain. I don't control it. It is an uncontrollable mechanism which is fed by a million patterns that are inside of me. So the process is to go through and start recognizing that your whole entire life is based around patterns. And those patterns are fed from the past. And the past is a lie, not a truth. So you come in and you look at your patterns and you hold space for them. Trying to squash them, trying to get rid of them. What we do a lot, and the reason why social media and YouTube and Netflix and all of these things, all of these websites are doing so well, is because we're spending so much time avoiding our patterns. We're avoiding the voice in our head. We're avoiding how we feel. We're using the external world as a distraction instead of sitting in a space and hearing the hurt and the pain and the anguish and the sadness and the anger and all of these really horrible things inside of us that exist inside of us because we've been raised in an extremely negative environment. Most of us have been raised in an environment where we do not feel safe. We weren't raised to feel safe. We were raised to be controlled. And when you're raised to be controlled, they have to control from a space of fear. And that can be your parents. Parents to control their kids, they need their kids to be afraid of them. Kids who aren't afraid of their parents are not controllable children. There's no one in this world that can say, my kid is not scared of me, but I can control them perfectly fine. You can't. Your kid has to be scared of you. They have to be scared of the outcome of their behavior. They have to. All the parenting has been based on fear. I need you to be afraid of this so I can get you to do that. That's parenting, right? That's how we've all been raised, with all of these parents who have just been trying to punish and control and punish and control and punish and control, and outcomes and ramifications to your actions, and go to your room and you're grounded, and it's all based on fear. So we come into this world as adults and then we wonder why we don't succeed, or when we do succeed, we still feel terrible, or when we get the thing that we think is going to make us feel good and we still feel terrible. It's all based on a lie. It's all based on fear. It's all based on a pattern and a past program that is anchored into your being. And you get to choose whether you squash it, whether you distract yourself, whether you avoid it, or whether you listen to it and you hold space for it and you acknowledge its existence and you accept that it's there and you also appreciate that it's there. These patterns aren't there to punish you. They're there because they were punished. And there's a difference. But now they don't know how to respond in any other way other than through punishment. So if you react by either squashing, avoiding, punishing yourself, fighting for your right to be right, then all you're doing is fueling that fire inside you and taking you further down the rabbit hole into a space of darkness. I know, I've been there. I spent, gosh, it must have been about 25 years, maybe longer actually, probably longer given my age. I would say longer, 30 years in the deepest, darkest depression. I was in hell. It was horrible. And when I realized that I was living my life based on a lie, and I realized I was living my life based on being addicted to the hits that I kept getting from the external world, and I realized that I was avoiding, and I realized I was disassociating, and I realized I was panicking about everything that was going on inside of me because I had no control over it. I stopped and I held space for all of these patterns that come up, and they come up. I am on a roller coaster right now of patterns that are coming up constantly throughout the day at the moment. And I am realizing more and more how much darkness and how much sadness and how much hurt, not so much anger, but how much hurt and how much fear and panic I have been living my life based on. And that fear and panic at the moment is coming to the surface, and I can feel it. But instead of seeing it as being me, I'm seeing it as I am here. I am in oneness. I'm connected to oneness. I am the non-physical manifestation in this physical form, or I am the manifestation of non-physical energy in this physical form. And I'm holding space for this pattern. I am not the pattern itself. The pattern is a program. And so when you realize and when you sit and you say, and take a breath, I need to take a breath to come back into this moment. When you sit here and say, I am the manifestation of non-physical energy in this physical form, holding space for my patterns to surrender them to the universe. And you say that every single time you feel something bad, I promise life is going to change. It shifts, it moves, it realigns you. It means that you have more space for energy to be receiving. It means that you start receiving more energy as opposed to simply having the world like a, I remember, I can't remember what it was called. That's machine where you're hitting the side, not the ping pong table, I can't think of what it was called. I had this amazing analogy that I used to use with past clients where it's almost like the ball would be dropped and then the lever would hit the ball and off you would go, and you go bing, 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 and you would be bouncing off just everything that happened in the external world. And for me, that's kind of what life was like. I was constantly bouncing off all of these different things that happened. Something went wrong, boom, I'd go down. Something went right, boom, I'd go up. Something went wrong, boom, I'd go down. Something went right, boom, I'd go up. And I would just be almost like a complete victim to my reality. I had no control over how I felt at all. But now things are changing. Now something bad can happen in my environment. I can feel the pattern that's reacting to what's happening in my environment. I can hold space for the pattern, and then I can surrender it to the universe. The pattern's gone. The feeling subsides. The bad thing's still there, but I'm not triggered by it anymore. It just is what it is. And this is what we spend so much time doing in our life, is that we keep fighting with what is. We keep fighting against the reality that we have. We're constantly fighting against ourselves, fighting against the external world, fighting against reality, fighting against our partners, fighting with our kids, fighting with our parents, fighting at work, fighting. We're just constantly fighting. And that constant fighting is what the problem is. That's your problem, is you keep constantly fighting with what is and fighting with yourself, as opposed to sitting and holding space for what is. Because as soon as you sit and you hold space for what is, you're not fighting anymore. And the feeling subsides, the anger subsides, the resentment subsides, the frustration subsides, the victim, the heartache, all of it subsides. And I know how hard this is, especially when you have a partner who is right in your face, that is seemingly a massive, massive, massive trigger for you. However, when they're not there, when you're away from them and you're still being triggered, that's the time. Don't try and sit and move into oneness when you've got someone yelling at you, abusing you. It doesn't work. That's not the time to do it. Not when you're first starting out. The time to do it is when you are in your own space and you have a memory coming up for the fight. So you remember the fight and you're triggered by the fight and you have this big emotion coming up. That's the time to hold space for the pattern when you can. Don't try and do it when you're in an external emotional experience where the trigger is so big you can't hold space for it. You need to react because the energy is too intense. You can't stop it. You can't squash it. You just need to run. That is not the time to hold space because you get to that point because it's almost like so many analogies. It's almost like a boiling pot. You get to a point where you're boiling and you've just got so much energy pent up that it has to come out. It can't not come out. But when you start holding space for these patterns and then you start surrendering them to the universe, and then all of a sudden you have space inside of you. When a pattern comes up, you have the space to hold. You actually have the space to hold. Even if something in your external world is triggering you, you have the space. But if you have not actually done the work to hold space for the patterns that are there and surrender them to the universe, then you're full to the top of patterns. You're full to the top of emotional trauma. And when something happens in the external world, you can't take any more in. And that's where we either disassociate or we disappear, we avoid, or we fight back. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.